15th of June 2024 at 12:26 p.m. here on Harstein Island, Washington, United States of America. Welcome once again to our cosmic journey, our highlighting our Devon Design podcast, highlighting our journey in making the world's best astrology software. Designer Jake here with engineer Trey as always. Hello, Trey.
Hello, Jake.
I completely messed up the beginning of this episode. It's the first time I've done that in a long time, by the way.
Yeah. I think because we've changed it a couple of times too. It's
Yeah,
probably harder to
but
remember.
there's no excuse for this. We're on Harstein Island. You know how you can tell? Mr. Henry, would you like to show the viewer your hat?
Yeah.
Yes. It says hi, Harstein Island, and it's got a little Harstein Island on it.
Yeah. The island is actually like right there.
And there's something in the eye. We can't figure out what it is yet, but
Yeah,
you know what?
I couldn't figure that out either. We need to like look at whatever they have for the logo.
Here, let's get you on single. Let's get you on solo here so that we can we can really see it. Take a look there. So, dear viewer, if you can figure out what is on the top of that letter I, we would be really appreciative. Thanks so much for that. Today is called Hidden Galaxy Ranch.
That's ridiculous.
This is hidden for a couple of reasons. We'll talk about a couple of those in a second, but we're going to do my check-in question, and then we'll do a design demo that will then move into two dev demos that are mostly around things that we have been changing in the background, things that might not be completely apparent to everyone. And then after that, we'll do a thank you. This other part of it being hidden goes to my check-in question, which does require me to do this. So, Mr. Henry, check-in question. Pluto squared Mars earlier this week, Tuesday or Wednesday, which means that hidden things were going to reveal itself. And the question I have for you, which is a weird one, is if you had a hidden family, what would they have been revealed to be this week?
Like that oh god, what was that thing where it was like there was the guy that had a family on the other side of the lake?
Yeah, I mean we have
secret
this
family?
island. So let's assume that you have a family on the west side of the island that I don't
Right.
know about and that they revealed themselves to me today. Tell me a little bit about this family.
It's probably like a secret family of wolves or bears. Probably one of those.
So you the secret family that got revealed to you was a family of wolves or bears,
Maybe both.
maybe both, and they live together. That's fantastic. I think my secret family is very, very religious, and I wear like basically very high button shirts, and I wear ties, and we go to a very conservative church. Basically, it's the exact opposite of who I am over here. Like
Oh, I see. Like,
everything is very buttoned up and proper and everything. And I
yeah.
think my name over there, I probably go by Leonard over on that side of the island. And I'm Jake over here. Do you have a different name for your wolf and bear family, or do you go by Trey?
It's probably like some kind of like growling I'm trying to think of like
Are you
God,
Trey?
sure.
Stupid. Everything about this episode is stupid. All right, let's talk a little bit about the redesign of point-and-point placement. I'm going to go to me. Mr. Henry and I, if you remember back in March, you can see in the episode up there, we had this thing that was a set point that talked about like what the relationship is between charts, rings, events, natives and events. And all of that is correct and it works really well. However, there are still some things that Mr. Henry is also going to talk about that are just not right about this yet. I did a lot of work on like refactoring this whole thing called point placement. I fixed the idea of like the difference between a placement, so a place where something exists versus it being a point or a planet or something like that. And if I'm just gonna do this, just watch how many things are in this list. La 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 la. It's crazy. It's crazy the amount of metadata that we can do for the purposes of showing off or like to explain where something is placed within a chart. Anyways, this brought us back to a conversation around what we were going to do with these cards. It's a very kind of silly conversation, but it's important that we have it. You'll remember this from that episode in May where we talk about like what a card that has to do with like a native looks like, what does a transits one, what does a here and now look like. There's still problems with this. Like the styling tends to break the boundaries. We have these things on the right hand side. So we started revising. These are not finished yet. These are just kind of placeholders right now. To put the event type here or the card type or the ring type here on the lower right hand corner. Anyways, all that to say, we have a little bit of a, it's not much of a design demo. It's just like we're right now in transition of redoing yet again these point cards because that doesn't work exactly as we expected. And Mr. Henry is going to pick up from here, I think, and talk a little bit about what he's been refactoring on his side when it comes to these ring cards that brought this back up. Do you want to take this over from here?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I was just gonna say that, like you said, point card there because you started out talking about
I
the point
know.
design and but we're actually that's the ring card
That's
that
the ring
we're
card.
talking
It's the
about
same
there.
thing. I was talking about the point card. I moved to the ring card. I'm all over the place today.
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
can?
No worries, no worries.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be just to be clear for the
To be
next thing
clear,
that we're talking about the ring cards, which initially are shown when the chart is being shown, so they would be displaying the what we call the rings, or what's internally in our system called chart data,
right?
which is like the actual like rings of the chart. So if I go over here, so we'll start with that, and I'll just hop over to the firmament,
Trey, by the
everybody's
way, took
favorite.
the task last week and did change his colors on his browser. So congratulations, well done. Appreciate that.
Thanks. Yeah, so just like Jake said, we were trying to have a better separation of concerns of the things that are in the ring card, so that native is native, which is an optional thing in the ring card. Um, not every uh, yeah, like not every ring on the chart is going to represent like a birth event, for example. But each one will have some common information, which internally is stored as an event. So like the date, time, the location, Rodden rating, all of that kind of stuff is stored on the event itself. And so you can see here that we now have like, I'm calling it event card part in the design. They're called mini microcards or mini cards.
Microcards,
This
correct.
is, I didn't call this a microcard because it doesn't actually have, it's just the guts of the component. It doesn't stand on its own without being put inside of something else, right?
Yeah. And by
Um,
design, the microcards can't stand on their own. This is exactly correct. So yes,
yeah,
that's fine.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
just
yeah.
using different terms for the same thing. Absolutely.
Yeah. So basically now like we have, like it's daytime and location or just daytime. Technically it could be just date. That variant is not shown here. And Jake will talk a little bit about some of the work that we're doing around uh, uh, trying to uh, trying to have the product work well in cases where we don't have enough information to render a complete chart. So for example, if we only have the date and not the time, or maybe only the date and not the location. So anyway, but here we're showing like the Rodden rating kind of like off to the side here. This is the native card, which now you can see that this hasn't been updated. The middle part is like kind of from the old design where we had the Rodden rating on the image. Uh, and now it's also being shown here because the only reason I wanted to show this is because it is demoing that this is the same thing that is being used in it here as well, right? Um, so anyway, this is the start of the breakdown of this work, and then I need to get the native part in there as well. This was kind of like we're actually sort of doing the cycle in reverse right now in the video because this was kind of like the last thing that I was working on.
Right.
In the cycle, but then we'll have once we have that native, then we just basically stack those two things, and that's the ring card. And then there might be the border of the ring card might also show the type of the ring, which would just be like, is it an event or is it a now, or is it a transit? And then yeah, and also the event, the events, uh, what we call kind and category, which would be like a life event, which is a birth, or a life event, which is a death, for example, will also be displayed here according to the design. So anyway, there's still work to do here, but we are now breaking this down so that it makes more sense with the design and with the kind of like internal infrastructure or the internal architecture of the application,
Yeah.
so that those things kind of like match up in the right way. Do you want me to just go through the rest of the
I mean,
demo, or do you want to split off to talk about?
do you want me to talk a little bit about like variability and point placements, like and all
Yeah,
that
yeah,
thing?
do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
So this doesn't have a design to it yet. What this has to it is a document, which is the way in which I like to start designing, which is writing things down. There's this weird thing that happens in celebrity chart interpretation where sometimes, actually for most prominent people, we know the day that they were born. We're relatively confident in the day that we're born, but we really don't have any idea what time that they were born unless they reveal that to us. Sometimes it's revealed in social media posts, things like that, but for the most part, we know the day that people were born, but not the time. Now, certain astrological databases will will say that the lack of knowing the time of something actually is. You had a good way of explaining this, Trey, that I can't remember. So can you talk a little bit about like the idea of like a null value versus an unknown value? Because I like the
yeah,
way that you
yeah.
described it.
Yeah, well, this is the thing that comes up in programming all the time, right? Which is like, what's the difference between the value? There's no value there versus a value which is nil. Which we don't have to get into the like details of that, but when thinking about like Rodden rating, which is what you're talking about, like a lot of times in like just in astrology circles, you might see a Rodden rating of X or XX,
Right.
which means that it's like it's a bad date,
Yeah, it's
right? Or
very
like the
bad data.
yeah, the data has a bad source. The Rodden rating is specifically talking about like the source of the information.
Correct.
Um, but you'll see that in cases where we don't know.
Right.
And there's a big difference between we know it's bad and we
And we
don't
don't
know.
know. Right.
And so when you don't know, you really don't want to use an X or an XX because that is indicating that we do know that it's bad. If we don't know that if we just don't know what the state of it is, there really needs to be like a Rodden rating of like NA or a Rodden rating of question mark or something like that, where it's basically like we don't know
Yeah.
actually how accurate this information is. Um,
Correct. And so,
and there would be a lot more of those, I think, than there would be X or XX. People just kind of like defaults to that XX, but that is really indicating that, yeah, we know that it's from a bad source.
right. And so the idea, this is the thing that I was deconstructing here on placement, right? So a placement requires a date. It can optionally, for more precision, have a time. Some placements will also require location, for example, chart angles, things like that. All we need to know is the date in order to make a determination about like what, like we could render a chart based on a date.
Yeah,
We,
you can do a lot with just the date.
right. You'll see here is that every placement has a zodiacal longitude. It's pretty easy stuff, right? This point sits at 12 degrees Libra, 34 minutes. However, certain planets, such as the moon, can be pretty variable in a day if you don't know the exact time. And so, what we are now baking into this thing is the minimum zodiacal longitude and the maximum zodiacal longitude. So for the moon, for example, if we say that you were born on the 31st of January 1979, we know that your moon was in Aries, but we don't know exactly how many degrees in Aries it was. This is the way in which that we can start showing a little bit of that variability to say it's not that we don't trust the data, it's that we don't know the data. And so therefore we have a sweep of 13 degrees or so that we say the moon could be sitting anywhere from, we'll just make up some numbers, 15 to 27 degrees of Aries for this chart. That was this prominent person that was born on the 31st of January 1979. Now, if we know the time, that narrows it in a little bit, and then we can have a Rodden rating, and that all makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And the idea that like because um what might happen in some cases as well is that you have a time, but you don't know that the time is super accurate.
Right.
And so you
That's
could
great.
actually,
That's great for
yeah, because
rotten rating.
yeah, and we can do a lot for because what a lot of astrologers will do is they'll do sort of like exactly what you're showing in that min and max. They'll just do two charts.
This is the problem with talking about design as opposed to designing design. This is all in my head. I'll be glad to render this for you in the near future, dear viewer.
Yeah. It's a really tricky problem, and I think if we get this right, even if we do, even if we do just a little bit of what we are talking about with trying to honor the fact that like you can get a lot out of a chart that you don't have a ton of information about.
Correct.
Like even if you just have the date, let's say even if you just have the date and the moon is like right on the cusp of transiting a sign, and so you don't know which sign the moon is in. But most of the other stuff, maybe Mercury is also like near a cusp. Most of the other stuff is probably going to not change.
Correct.
um, you can still, looking at that chart and then looking at a transit chart for that same birth chart, you can get a lot of meaningful and interesting detail out of what things were going on with the in the native's birth chart, with the transits that are currently happening and other timing techniques, which are only based on like the positions of the planets. Obviously, the more that you know, then you can bring in houses and you can bring in angles and houses, and you get a lot more. You get a lot more detail that way, but there's
Yeah.
still a lot of value in looking at these other things as
Yeah.
well. There was a significant bug where the location was changing after you selected a location. It was
Yeah,
changing
we
when you
saw
changed the other
that.
fields.
We saw
Yeah,
that
so
in the episode.
that's been fixed. But there's a bunch of other things that have now been fixed. So you can now select thing with mouse. So there's now mouse interaction, which was obviously always supposed to be in there. Also, you can now hit like you can click out of it and it will reset to the prior value. You can also hit escape, but in this particular case, and this is why I was going to show the firmament, is that like I can hit escape and it will also return to the prior value. So yeah, so
The
this
reason
all
you're not showing
now,
that in chart is because when you hit escape, it closes the modal,
it closes the modal, exactly
which is
correct.
the
Yeah.
correct behavior. Yes.
Yeah. So also I'm hitting tab now to so like I can select something and then I can hit tab and that will tab out and also select the thing, whereas before you only had to hit enter. Anyway, it should be theoretically impossible to end up in a state where you have this selection up, this sort of like selection pop up, but you don't actually have the location focused, which was also an issue that we had before. So anyway, there was a bunch of updates to location as well early on in the cycle to like really fix that experience, and then the experience of this location picker will actually be used for a general sort of like combo box component, which will be used for other things which we already have some design for. So that'll be coming up in a future episode
I
as
love
well.
it.
So you'll see that again.
Good work. Um,
Yeah.
Hidden Galaxy Ranch is now closed. What should I mean, now that the moon has transited into Libra, which is its domicile lord is Venus, and so we're in a very Venusian kind of mood. What should the viewer do with this?
Um, like whatever a thing is that you really enjoy, like try a bunch of variety of it. So
Yeah.
like if you really like potato chips, get like 20 different variety of
We
potato chips.
have three different types of Cheez-Its. We had no idea. Well, like
Yeah,
we have
and they're
white
great.
cheddar, normal, extra toasty. So I think we're just gonna go Cheez-It nuts today.
Yeah. Yeah. Like just yeah, have a variety of thing that you love.
Yeah. We went for a walk today with our dog Doc, and so it was raining, so therefore every smell was out, and that was really like
Which he
verdant
loves.
and earthy for him to enjoy. But then we saw, no joke, two squirrels, one cat, five deer, including a baby deer. It was like every single animal came out of the forest to like, like when Cinderella or whatever is singing in the forest and all the animals come out to sing with her. That's exactly what happened with Doc, except Doc wanted to like
I think it's Snow White.
Snow White. I never
Yeah, I think
remember if it's Cinderella or
yeah,
Snow
me either.
White. Um, Anyways, it was a very Snow White-ish day for Mr. David Wong. And so we hope that you have the same type of day. Go out there, find all of the things that you enjoy and put way too much of them inside of you or on you. That'd be great. We would love that. Be well, take care. We love you very much. Take care and goodbye.
Bye.